Hi, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Craig Kern. I'm the founder and lead educator here at True Alpha Trading. Today is August 16th, 2026, and I'm just jumping back on here to take a look at the price action that occurred this past week, as well as give you an update on my position and what that looks like here using our True Alpha Trading system. Now, again, these updates are just to give you kind of a look over my shoulder so that you can somewhat test drive our trading system to see if this is something that might work for you before you purchase the courses and tools that we offer you to implement this system. But again, what I'm doing here is just giving you a look at my portfolio, and I have my entire position here allocated to this trading system. So there's nothing else uh, layered in here or other stock positions that you're going to see in here. This is entirely positioned around our trading system. So it's giving you a transparent view of my live trading account and showing you exactly on a week to week basis how I'm implementing this trading system to both position myself and manage risk against the major indexes. Now, you'll see here that the futures have opened and they are moving. It looks like we're slightly higher here at the open this Sunday evening. But with that, we'll go ahead and jump in here and get started. What I've got pulled up on the screen here, what you'll see is this yellow arrow and the line that's across the screen here represents where we closed the Friday before this past Friday. So this was August 7th, and you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and where we closed on Friday here is represented by, again, this yellow arrow and the line that you'll see across the screen here. So over the course of this week, we saw a little bit of a move higher. All in all, was a move higher to the tune of about 0.32%. So not huge, but it is just a continuation of this move higher here on the S&P 500. If we look at the blue line here and arrow on the screen, this is going to mark where we closed at the end of last month on July 31st. So from where we closed last month to where we closed this past Friday, that's a move of about 3.98%, call it 4% higher for the month of August here. So for a 1 month move, this is a pretty significant move that we've seen so far, especially to only be, halfway through a month's worth of trade at this point in time. I'm just going to zoom out now, double click here. You'll see if I zoom in on this bar right here, you'll see this marks where we closed at the end of December 31st of last year. So from where we closed at the end of last year to where we currently sit after Friday's close at 7802.50, we're sitting at about a 13.18% move higher here on the futures so far on a year-to-date basis. So a pretty solid move here over the course of this year, especially only to be at midway through August with a good chunk of the year left to go. So we'll see kind of where things are headed for the remainder of this month. I'm going to click over now and just show you my position and what that looks like. So again, at the top of my screen here, if I just highlight this section, I'll just reiterate here that this is the base position that I'm carrying for the month of August. And I say base position because these are the exact entries that I placed at the beginning of this month. Okay, so this is the base position that I have on for the month of August, and I won't look to substantially change this unless we see some substantial volatility. What you may see me do is make some adjustments in here on a weekly basis. But so far with this move that we've gotten higher, I haven't made any adjustments so far to this position. So the entries that you see here at the top represent the position that I'm carrying for the month of August. And this is what I'll just let this position ride if we continue to move higher over the course of this month, and won't look to make any adjustments. If we did see a substantial sell-off, I might look to come in here and make some adjustments to this position. But all in all, I won't look to change the overall distribution of risk and reward that I have here for the month of August. So I'm just going to back this off of the screen now and show you that those entries give me this position. If I just scroll down in here I'm going to go back up here and just unfreeze this. But if I scroll down here, you'll see that this is the distribution of risk and reward that I'm carrying for the month of August. And as a highlight from week to week, over here on the far left column, this just represents a straight percentage move on the S&P 500 futures here. So if we get a percentage move higher or lower, these two columns here are just showing you where that's going to put the S&P 500 futures based on that percentage move. More importantly, out beside that is the capital that I have in my account and how my position is going to perform relative to that same percentage move in the S&P 500 futures here. So my position is going to move lockstep with the S&P 500 futures in this case. And so what becomes really important to me at all times really is this middle column here. If I just scroll down, is this column right in here, which shows me whether I'm underperforming or outperforming the S&P 500 at any given point in time. So again, the distribution that you see here, you can tweak this distribution of risk and reward based on the entries that I showed you up top. So if you wanted to take a slightly different position than what I showed you at the top of my screen there just a few minutes ago, you could adjust this and customize this to a distribution that maybe suits the exposure that you want to have for this month, or the distribution that suits your tolerance for risk in this case. Again, I like this just overall distribution because if I show you here, the way that I position myself is to capture most of the upside if we do continue to move higher. Now we closed right at 7802.50 on the S&P 500, so that's going to be right in here in this case. So we closed at 7802.50 on the S&P 500. Okay, that's going to put us at almost a 4% move higher on the S&Ps. And then you're going to see here out beside that where that puts my position on a month-to-date basis. Okay, so you'll see here that I'm capturing most of that move to the upside and will continue to capture most of that move to the upside if we do continue rallying higher in here. But more importantly for me, with us continuing to move to all new highs here, I want to be carrying a position where I'm hedged to the downside. So you'll see here if we saw any type of a substantial move lower over the course of this month, that I do have a hedge that kicks into my position here and helps me reduce some of the losses that I would have otherwise realized in here if I were just passively exposed to the index by means of just long shares of any index fund. So this is a more dynamic position in that, because as you saw just a second ago, I'm capturing most of the upside if we do continue to rally higher, but I'm also carrying a position here that I have a hedge that kicks in for me if we do see some type of a significant move lower inside of the S&P 500. And it's that type of a position month to month that I'm aiming to compound. And if you just think about how that plays out over the long term, right? If I can capture most of the upside that the S&P 500 has to offer any given month, and at the same time reduce my downside, right? Reduce the overall loss that I stand to gain on a month-to-month basis. Okay, extrapolate that out over the long term. If the S&P 500 is going to continue to move higher long term, then just think about how much better of a position that puts me in long term if I can capture most of the upside and reduce my losses to the downside month to month to month. Okay, so that's the position that I have on here. Again, I haven't made any type of adjustments so far because we've just continued this trek higher in the S&Ps. But I do like the position that I have on here because I'll continue just to capture a lot of the upside in here if we do continue to rally higher. And I also have a nice position, a nice hedge to this position that's going to kick in for me if we did change course in some type of a substantial way from here. Okay, so again, that's just a view of the position that I'm carrying and how I've implemented my position. You'll see that we teach you a few different positions that you can take utilizing this system. This This is just one of 3 base positions that we teach you to take. And it's a lot of it here is just based on the price extreme that we're at, being at all-time highs in this case, and the level of volatility that we're at, which volatility's been pretty low here. So this position for me fits the environment that we're in, being at all-time highs and with low volatility. So if we were to see some type of a substantial sell-off that wasn't just met with one of these V bottoms and a buyer stepping in and pushing things higher in a significant way, then if we did see elevated volatility with some continuation to the sell-off, then I might look to take one of 2 other positions that we teach you how to take. And that's, again, just to kind of capitalize on where we would be at that point in time based on the price extreme. So not fundamentals, not any kind of technicals, not anything news related or macro related. This is purely a reaction to price extremes on the major indexes. And that's just to keep it simple. That's to keep my emotions out of it. And I think you can see if you follow any of my updates that this has performed very well over the last few years, and so far it's performed really well this year. So again, with these updates, my intention here is just to give you a fully transparent view of how I'm positioning myself and managing my risk here. And it's also just to give you a transparent view of how this system's actually performing throughout the year, right? On a week-to-week basis, month-to-date basis, and over the course of an entire year. So hopefully this is helpful. I'll be back here next week just to give you, again, a recap of the price action that we're going to see this week, along with an update to my position here. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll look to catch you here next time at True Alpha Trading. Thanks again. See you soon. Bye-bye.